What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? This is Muscle, and this is another Two Line Music Hut's Entertainment Report podcast. And today we have a really special guest in the building. Listen, this lady is a rapper, a singer, a producer, director, a songwriter, and so much more. She has out a new single right now called Number One, produced by herself and Bassline. You know, we have in the building today, we have the Black Lotus in the building today. What's going on, my sister?
Chilling. How are you doing? Thanks for having me here today.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for coming through.
Anytime.
All right. How is things going on your side of town right now?
Things are good. It's hot, but things are really good. It's been busy. I've been definitely discovering more about myself every day, as you listed all the things that, that I do. My dad calls me a hairman. He says, I do everything. He's like, you're a hairman. You do everything. You do too much. I'm like, yeah. So every day, discovering something new. But yeah, it's been good.
Good. All right. On this program here, we like to take it right from the beginning and then bring us right up to 2021. So my first question for you is this. Where did you grow up and what attracted you to music in the first place?
I grew up in Toronto, but more specifically, I grew up in the Rex. So anybody from Toronto who knows the West End. But music has always been a part of my life. Like my mom was a super music fanatic when it came to the R&B world, and my dad is a reggae musician, so he was always playing music around the house, and he had a band it was called United Groove Band, and they would back up for Barris Hammond and just anybody who came to Canada, Buju, Beanie Man, anybody who came to Canada, his band was backing him. So we would have rehearsal at our house every Wednesday. And that's where my love for music began, just hearing the music through the walls every Wednesday night. And just kind of hearing him play and being able to meet people like Lady Saw and Frankie Paul and just all these people who would come by the house. It was bound to happen. That's kind of how it happened. One of his 5 daughters was going to be the one to get the music bug. So
one of the Miller daughters.
Yes. One of us. So just kind of, didn't fall.
And did you really realize who all these people were at this time when you were meeting them, or this was something you discovered later on in life?
It was something I discovered later on. We would just hear people coming and just making music in the basement and just be like, whoa, who's that? Just hearing it. Some people would come and you're like, no, I don't want to hear this. But then there's majority of the people would come and it would just be amazing music, So I don't know. I think at that age, I didn't really understand, but I knew that they were special because of just the energy, just the energy that came from that space. You could just tell that, my dad wasn't playing around. He wasn't at all.
I hear you. And when did you actually discover your voice, or what was the first thing you discovered about yourself artistically?
I wanted to be a rapper.
Okay.
And that was the first, I didn't sing. I refused to sing in front of people for a very long time, but I was always rapping. And it was just my older sister would always play Biggie Smalls and Tupac and Bone Thugs and Harmony. And I was too young rapping these lyrics. My mom's like, no. So it was kind of I don't know. That's where it began. I really wanted to be a rapper, and I started playing piano, and it was just kind of just dabbling in music and just digging with my dad's equipment all the time, his DJ equipment, and so I've always had the music bug. It just started at a very young age.
All right. So you started out as a rapper first. So what was the first, did you
in
actually?
In my mind, nobody else's.
I hear you 100%. So what was your first thing to get into the music industry? Because you said your mom, she was a collector and she liked R&B. Your dad was playing a lot of reggae and stuff. So what was your first entrance into the music business itself?
Into the music business, I had actually met, it was a supply teacher, and he was doing acting work and things like that. And he, I don't know, one time I was just in class and he discovered that I was writing music in a book, and he was like, do you sing? And I'm like, yeah. So he brought me to my first vocal coach, Abraham Faulkner, in Toronto. And from there, it was just, okay, let's figure out what you're doing with your voice. And then, I started just doing shows around the city, little things like the CNE, they have the exhibition where they have young talent come in and do things like that. So that was the first beginning of me actually not being afraid to perform. And at that time, I was probably like 12 or 11 years old, around that age.
Wow, that was early.
Yeah.
So how come you didn't decide to pursue rap at the beginning instead of singing? Because as you said, you didn't really like to sing in front of people.
I think it was because of the age that I was and the lyrical content that I was memorizing as a rapper, that kind of deterred my parents from like me being a rapper. And I guess R&B at the time was just more suitable. There were artists like Brandy and Monica and like SWV and people who were singing like R&B and love songs. And I guess that's just really what it was. It wasn't that they didn't want me to be a rapper, but they knew that I could sing, you know? And on my mom's side of the family, we have a lot of vocalists and a lot of singers from Nova Scotia, where my mother grew up. And I think it was just that, you know, coming from that world and the church, that they were just like, you gonna sing. And that's what happened.
That's what happened here. Wow. Okay. And what was your actually first recording that you went into the studio to record?
Oh, wow. Oh, my first recording. Jeez. Dig in the back of the brain. I think it was here. It was actually in LA. And I was working with a writer by the name of Ty-V, and she had cut this song called Coulda Fooled Me. And I actually demoed the record for 702 at the time. I don't think they ended up using the record, but that was the first time I really got a chance to hear myself on record. Yeah. How did you like how you sounded at that time there? It was cool because it was the first time that I had actually sang a song that I actually recorded, that somebody actually wrote for my voice. And that experience the first time was pretty cool. And I couldn't really believe it was me. It was weird. You know, I think, you know, when you're a kid and you're young and you hear yourself in a recording, it's like, why do I sound like that? But for me to hear myself singing and then for her to like vocal produce with me, it was just, from then I was like, I can do this. Like, I can do this. So, yeah.
Got you. All right. Let me bring you back a flashback. I got a couple of flashbacks in here.
Man.
The first one I'm going to give you. I know you were in a group with, it was you, Melanie Fiona, and I forget who the third person was.
Nicole Holness. Yes.
How did that come around?
Was the same at the time. My manager had heard that they were looking to put together a girls group. And at the time, Exquisite was Melanie Fiona and maybe 2 other girls or something, but they hadn't actually really recorded anything. And the other 2 girls, I think, had left the group. And so it was just Melanie at the time. And I went to audition. And it was funny because when we met each other, it was automatic. It was like, hey, girl. It was like automatic. And till this day, like, we're still super cool. Like, I spoke to her a couple days ago and, you know, she's one of my closest friends. And I don't know, I feel like that experience, just being in a girls group, I needed, because we grew together as vocalists and as, you know, as artists, and understanding the industry from a business standpoint and just from a sonic standpoint, what we wanted to sing, what we didn't want to sing, as well. So yeah, Exquisite was an interesting experience.
How long did the group last for?
The group actually was together for a couple of years before we had actually put anything out. So we'd started pretty early. And when we released No Regrets, we had actually, I think, shot another video after that. But we kind of had our, I guess, differences when it came to the business aspect of the group, and also some of the lyrical content of the songs that were on the album. As while we were working on it, I was writing a lot of the album with one of the producers, Marcus Kane, who did most of the project. And there was just some creative differences, but I feel like that was the first time at that age, and with Melanie and Nicole, that we had to like make a decision for ourselves as artists. Like, where do we see ourselves? What do we want to leave as our legacy? And we just thought otherwise, you know? So it was still good. It's still all love between all of us. It was really just a difference in creative, you know, decisions.
And that's okay, because remember, as an artist, you have so many things that you want to express sometimes. And if you're in a group with other people, they might not want to express the same thing or have the same vision. So it's okay. Yeah, definitely. We had very different views on the music, but the album came out, and
My voice is still all over it. Melanie's voice was still all over it, but neither one of us were on the cover. It's cool. Like, all love to Nicole. Like, you know what I mean? She held it down as the album came out, and things like that. So it was still, I feel like it was a journey, a part of the journey that had to happen.
Got you. That's exquisite there. All right. So let me go back down memory lane again. How did you meet Drake?
Oh, wow. I met Drake at this, I guess it was a restaurant / lounge. And he was doing, it was like every Thursday night, him, Melanie Fiona, and a keyboard player named Dalton, D10, who I think still plays for Drake. They were doing this like Thursday night. I know Melanie was singing, and I think Aubrey at the time was hosting. And I went there to see Melanie perform, and that was the first time I had met him. He was like, "I know you. You're Andreena Mill," and I was like, "Who's this guy?" I didn't know him. I just wanted to see. Like, that's just how my mind has always been, And yeah, he was super cool. And then we ended up we ended up in the studio because I knew 40. I've known 40 for a long time, since like high school, and he was working with some people I was working with. And funny enough, he was working with 40 and I was working with Socks, and we were kind of just bumped into each other at the studio. I'm like, "Oh, it's that guy again." And then I heard him rap, and I was like, "Who is this dude? Who is this guy? Who is this guy?" And like, from there, it was hilarious because he always knew he's had this spark, but I had no idea until I heard him that day. And then we just clicked and just started working on music together. Like he's written for me, like on my first project, like I've written with him and things like that. And yeah, he's super talented guy, as we know.
Because you have 2 classic songs on his classic mixtape, The Comeback Season. Yeah. And even what makes one of the songs more classic, it's you, Drake, and Kardinal Offishall, all on one track. How did that come together?
Oh man, Last Hope. Funny enough, Last Hope we had kind of like done in the studio just in passing, but it wasn't really. He had the beat playing for a while, and I was sitting there and I'm like, I can't really feel anything to this. Not that I didn't feel the beat. It was just I'm very much of a person, like I have to be in the moment to catch what it needs to be, And we kind of sketched out a melody idea and like a bit of words, but it didn't really come together. And then we had already recorded Closer to My Dreams, but it was a rough version of it. So one night he calls me, it's like 4:00 in the morning, and he's like, "Can you get down to the studio?" And I'm like, "Guy, I'm in my bed. I don't want to go there." And something just told me, get out of bed. And I took a cab from Scarborough to downtown, to Dufferin and King, and we re-recorded Closer to My Dreams. But when I got there, Rich Kid was there, Kardinal Offishall was there, and I was there with my 3-month-old daughter. It's 4:00 in the morning. I'm tired, and like she's grumpy. And then he's like, "Yo, this is the idea." And I feel like the energy of just where I was, Last Hope, just like. And I heard Cardi's verse, I heard his verse, and I'm like, let me do this. Went in the booth, did Last Hope, and I feel like that energy, that at that moment, like we knew that something was changing in the city. The air was different. There was something different about the city, and to have Cardi as like, definitely one of the pioneers to really like speed ahead, like lead the way. It was definitely a blessing at that point, So.
No, because those are classics right there. Because imagine you're having Kardinal Offishall, Drake, and you all on one track, especially at that time there too.
Yes, it was a pivotal moment, And Rich Kid, like his beats, I've always loved. They're very cinematic to me. Like you can see, and you could see the emotion when you hear his music. So. It just was great, it was great vibes, and I feel like Drake knows how to put together a record. He knows who belongs where. And yeah, definitely plays his part. Amazing.
Definitely. Salute the boy on that one there. I mean, for sure.
Definitely.
All right. This is another one. This was another massive point in your career here too, was meeting DMX. Tell me how you met DMX and put out and did 3 songs with X.
Well, this is the crazy part. We've never met in person. We've only talked on the phone numerous times, and that's the crazy part. So the whole situation with the Last Hope, like it was my dad called me downstairs one day. It was like, Andreena, DMX has a song on BT. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm like, what? And I had no idea. Rich Kid knew about this.
Mm-hmm.
And apparently DMX had no idea that Drake was the originator of this song. Snaz, I was working with at the time, he produced a lot of my first project and we worked a lot together, had sent it to Dame Grease, who's like, DMX's brother, you could say. And X heard it and was just like, yo, I want to jump on this. So when that happened, X called me because I wasn't aware of it and Drake wasn't aware of it. Mm-hmm. So at the time I was working a job and DMX called me at work and I was like, who is this? And it's X. I'm like, wait a minute, this is not like, I'm thinking somebody's playing a joke on me. And then he said, oh, Andreena's X. And I was like, wait a minute, this is him? I'm going to get fired because I'm there on the phone. I'm trying not to like, yeah. So he literally was just like, is it okay? I didn't mean to like overstep my boundaries. I'm like, no, just DMX, what are we talking about here? And from there, he was like, I really want to create more with you. And I was like, most definitely. So at that point, Snaz and I and Dan Grease got together and we created Cold World and No Love. Those were the other two records that ended up being on the Undisputed album. And during the whole process, he was very like hands-on. So I would send something and he's like, yeah, that's it. He just wanted me to be me and just whatever. He's like, just do whatever you do best. And he was so kind and was so when it came down to me being like, okay, I'm going to go and work on this record. He's like, okay, I'm going to pray about it. And for me, that is when a person is very spiritually attached to their music, there's just something different about what comes out of it. And that's how he was when it came to the music. So, R.I.P. X, man. It's just, a lot of history with him. And a lot of people don't know he was a very, very kind soul. And for me to be an artist that he had no idea who I was and to come to me and say, like, is it okay that I use your work? And you're like, not many people do that. So, salute to X as well. Most definitely.
No, that's classic right there. And just the way how you remember it is just so amazing too, where I felt like I was at work with you when you got
yeah. My homegirl was like, girl, you lying. I'm like, no, I'm serious. He just called me like, who does that? So, yeah.
Crazy. Another one here. Let's go super left then. You did the hip hop stuff. How did you get in contact with Jimmy Jam and a Terry Lewis? Because that's next level altogether.
Yeah, that was pretty crazy. So the track masters, the original track masters, Poke, Tone, Alex, Richburg, and Frankie. Frankie is actually my video production partner. And a couple years ago, he said to me, he was like, who you remind me of? He was like, you should try to do some Janet stuff. Because we were always talking about just like different, our influences in music. Because he's really like my mentor. Mm-hmm. And so he was like, let's try Flip, That's the Way Love Goes. And I was like, okay, me not putting two and two together of like the history between, everybody. So I do this That's the Way Love Goes cover because I love Janet Jackson. And we just put it out. We put it out for fun. And then a couple weeks later, I get a call from Terry being like, hold on, who's this? Terry Lewis? Like, what? He calls me because Alex Richburg is a good friend of his and they were working on the Johnny Gill project. And he was like, I love what you did with the Janet record. Like, you want to come in and work with Johnny Gill? And I was like, what? What? And we ended up literally a month later, I ended up going to his studio and sitting down with them. And, you see the massive Michael Jackson plaques on the wall. And I'm like, I remember watching these guys in the video with Janet as like an itty bitty kid. And now he's sitting in front of the computer and I'm in the booth and I'm singing these vocals for this record called Hard with Johnny Gill that came out in 2019. Mm-hmm. So that was pretty epic. That was pretty epic.
It's crazy how your life just seems to go, and it seems to happen in the most random times. Like, okay, I'm just doing something chill.
Always random. It's in a way, it's not random because I don't believe in like randomness. I believe it's like divine timing because when it came like Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis, like when I was recording like in my basement working on my projects, I've always had this It was the album cover for Control. My mother had it in a frame, and I always had it above my computers. And it's like, to think back to that day where I'm looking at this Control album once again, but this time I'm in the booth, and it's just, it's not a coincidence in my mind. It's just, it's just divine timing. It was something that I've, subconsciously manifested working with them, and it happened, and it was crazy.
Crazy.
Yeah.
I know you describe yourself as a love child between Alliyah and Andre 3000.
They were my obsessions, and they still are. They literally are.
What features of your father would you have, and what features of your mother would you have?
I would say from Andre 3000, definitely when I approach the music, when I approach the musicality of when I'm producing, he's very left. He likes to take risks. And I feel like I've always done that, but I've never really put it to the forefront. But now definitely I'm like working on these projects. I'm very much taking the lead in the sense of like, I like this quirky sound, let's play with this more. And I like trying to, do interpolations of songs and sounds and eras that you wouldn't necessarily apply to R&B music or the type of music that I do. When it comes to Alliyah, I feel like she was just so confident in herself and who she was. And, as a Black female, not feeling like, okay, I have to do this and I have to be like this. She was just her. And those are the inspirations that I would say. It wouldn't necessarily be of like, okay, I mean, of course I'm inspired by her music, but it was more of like the first time I saw her, I was like, she's so confident with just being her. And it took me a while to find that in myself, but yeah, I'm here. I feel like it took me a while to get there. And funny enough, we share the same name. My middle name is Alliyah. And it's like, I felt like just watching her journey, it was just, definitely a huge inspiration for who I am today. Yeah. Rest in peace, Alliyah. Oh my gosh, 20 years as of yesterday. Wow. And like, time flies. Wow.
Trust me, it does. Trust me, it does. You talked about production. I know that you were involved with the introduction for Future's Summer 16 tour. Mm-hmm. All right. How did that come around?
So I did, I was doing a bunch of hip hop covers on YouTube. Mm-hmm. And I ended up doing Future turn on the lights or turn off the lights. I'm trying, my brain is off today. Mm-hmm. And I did Honest by Future.
Name another nigga hot, I'm just honest. Gold bottles on bottles, I'm just honest. 100,000 on watches, I'm just honest. Coops on coops, I'm just honest. Tell the truth.
And when I did Honest, his right-hand man, his name is Shooter. He pretty much just like documents his whole life, and he's pretty much like one of his best friends. He contacted me about the cover, Honest, and I was like, okay, what's up? And he wanted me to actually perform Honest with Future for, I think it was like an NBA game or something like that. But I had just gotten back to Canada, and I was like just kind of settling with my family, so I couldn't necessarily leave. And then this was in 2015. So we kept in contact, and I had started doing a bunch of just like piano tidbits around ideas that Future had been playing with in the studio. So while he was working on his documentary and certain things for Instagram posts, I would just send these piano, just kind of like ambient music with my vocals and like, playing with Future's vocals here and there. And I was really just like doing it for fun. I love Future. So I'm like, okay, whatever. I'm not even looking for anyone to even say that's her. Like, I didn't care. But then when it came down to the Summer 16 tour, they were like, hey, do you have anything that's close to what we've been doing? And I was like, well, I can create something. And I had actually went to one of Future shows. He came to Toronto, and I mentioned to Shooter, I'm like, I really want to create something for an intro. So I ended up using, a bit of, from my DJ background, using a bit of his clips and a bit of mine, the things that we had been working on, and created this intro that he had used for his Summer 16 tour. So that was pretty cool too. That was pretty cool. And that was random once again. Not random, but random.
Your life just seems to be, again, as you said, you manifested, even if it wasn't, you looked at the poster every day, or it was just, you put yourself in a position to win. And when the opportunity came up, you continued winning.
Yeah, I was being prepared for the opportunity when it came to me, because I never thought that it was going to be a case of me ever working with Future. It was just, I loved his music and I wanted to, just, sorry, my dog is snoring. I wanted to, just give my interpolation of what hip hop was to me, because I've always loved hip hop and I've always loved rap music, but to kind of create that from an R&B perspective on the piano was really all I wanted to do. And somebody saw it and that was important.
I remember those days. I remember seeing those come up a lot on YouTube, and sometimes I think probably Instagram was around those times. You see a lot of times, and how I remember you singing "Bitch Don't Kill My Vibe." That was one of the big ones I remember.
That was cool too. Yeah, I'm definitely going to be doing more of these. I had to take a break, and I've been doing a lot of other things, other entrepreneurial things. Definitely getting back to the music.
All right, no problem. I know 2013 was I think that was your last real full body of work, Naked.
Yeah.
All right. How have you grown from that album to today?
Wow. Naked was, I think it was like my ode to love from that perspective of like loving other people. I feel like after I put out that body of work, and shortly after that, I had my son. And I feel like once that happened, my perspective really changed. Not to say that I didn't agree with my project anymore, but it came really back down to the point of like me looking at myself in a different way, and I think the music now is from the position of really like loving myself, loving my family, loving the things around me and the people around me, and just life. Naked was more of a reflection of a period of time in my life when I was in a situation or in a relationship that was like very almost detrimental to my mental health, to my physical health, to a lot of things. And when the relationship was over, I just had so much baggage that I needed to get rid of. So like 24 songs later, that was Naked. And I feel like it was so important because there were so many women that when the project came out that heard it, that were able to relate to it. Like, I've been through this, I've been dealing with this, and this album got me through this. So I feel like it needed to happen, but it was also like a big eye opener for me of like, you went through all of this and came through all of this. Now what do you do? So this is where I'm at right now when it comes to the new music. After that I released The Reverse, which was the beginning of me just kind of trying to put my production on display. Mm-hmm. And that was the first time that I had actually taken the time to put together a solely produced project. And that was straight to SoundCloud. Like, it wasn't anything else. It wasn't Spotify or anything like that. But yeah.
How did it do on SoundCloud for you at that time?
It went pretty well. I mean, I didn't expect it to really do anything. When I put anything on SoundCloud, usually it's more of just like for the people who are the fans, who are just listening to the music. I love to do projects like that. There's another one coming in like 2 weeks that is going to be that I'm really excited about. But for me, when it comes down to projects like that, it's really just for people to kind of just engage in what I'm feeling and can you relate to this? Do you feel this? Just messing around with music. It's just, in my mind, it's just a vibe. So, yeah.
Definitely. Because I know right now you're in LA, you were in Toronto and all this stuff. You moved to LA. Why did you move to LA after you worked with Drake's, you worked with Cardinal, you worked with Big Sox, worked with Lisa Monet, you won Stylist Awards, you done all of these stuff. So did you feel at one point that you probably hit a ceiling in Toronto and you had to go somewhere else?
I feel like it's definitely, Toronto is growing. Toronto has so much amazing talent. But I also feel like, I needed to be outside of the world of Toronto for a minute, and also wanted to really expand on what I was, building. So in 2016, my best friend and I, we had created Black Lotus Media Group, which is the company that I run everything through now. And it's, we do photography, we do videography, we do create music and things like that. So I just felt that like, okay, she's working on the East Coast, I'm working on the West Coast. Let's just create this, conglomerate. And I felt like being here would allow me to expand and grow. And it has, being able to work with many people out here and, just contact with different producers, other songwriters, stylists, makeup artists, just everything I needed to grow. And I feel like LA was the place for that. I've been coming back and forth here for so many years, but I felt like I needed to stay, And Toronto does have a lot of work to do when it comes to just the foundation of the industry. I think there's so much talent and there's so many great people with great ideas and great movements, but there is a certain level of, like a solid foundation that Toronto needs in order to really show the world, like, this is what we have to offer. It's getting there. It's definitely getting there.
It's the infrastructure, definitely, because clearly we have some of the biggest artists in the world. It's been running the world for a hot minute.
Yes. Oh gosh, yes. So many amazing talent coming out of Toronto, and it's just great to see. I've been around from the beginning to see like the rise of like Julie Black and Socrates and Kardinal and Choclair and Red One and the Rascals and just like all of these names and Maestro, and to see that, and then to see the emergence of Party Next Door and Drake and Bieber and just Division and all of these, amazing Savannah Ray. There's just so many great talents coming out of the city, and in a short span of time too. really short.
Definitely. LA now, Toronto. What would you say culturally is the biggest difference between LA and Toronto?
The food. The food.
I knew without a doubt you were going to say that. I need you to expand on this.
Toronto, I apologize. I took advantage of your delicious food. Eglinton West and in Scarborough and all these other places. I apologize because when I try to go get the best like jerk chicken and roti and I just can't find it. But LA has amazing food, but West Indian food, whew, yeah.
That's the biggest thing. So you can't go down the road to Randy's and go find a patty and those.
No, I haven't had roti in years. I'm like, oh my gosh, man. Mm-hmm. Oh, and the jerk chicken, like I'm such a skeptical person. The funny thing is I have a good friend who lives out here and she's a former Toronto native, and I will go to her house and she'll throw down in the kitchen. So it's like home cooked food. But yeah, other than that, I think the food is the one major cultural difference. And then there is, there is a West Indian culture here, but it's not as prominent as Toronto. I feel like just Canada on a whole, we have a certain pride when it comes to the international, the people are just so diverse. There's a certain love that comes along with being from Toronto and knowing what like real Asian food tastes like and real Middle Eastern food is and real Caribbean food and African food. It just, there's the pride to it. No, that's the good stuff, So.
You get it. Okay. So since you brought up food and stuff like that, I'm going to ask you this. Think about this. Okay. If you're one of your American friends, you're going to fix them a drink. You had a bottle of white rum of Ray and Nephew. Okay. All right.
Okay.
You had Ting, you had Coke, you had cranberry juice, On the Rocks, and orange juice. What would you fix them to drink and introduce them to your culture?
It would probably be the rum and the Ting, but I would probably have to add some ginger beer to it. I think I would add some ginger beer to it. And then it might just be that, because I'm not too much of a sugar sweetness person when it comes to drinks. Or it would just be some straight shots of some Ray and Nephew. It might just be the straight shots.
And that's how you'd introduce them to your culture, right?
Yes.
All right. I know that originally you went by your first name, Andreena Mill. Okay. Yeah. When and why did you change it to Black Lotus?
The Black Lotus, I changed. So I've always, like my sisters and my homegirls, we'd always kind of joke around. I would call myself Black or Black Lotus, but it was kind of always like my moniker as a producer. Like if I'm producing in the studio, just like hanging out with my family, they'd always know me as like the Black Lotus. But I've never really spoke about it because I don't think anyone really took me serious as a producer. It was always, she's a songwriter, she's a singer. But when I decided that I was going to move to LA and kind of not start over, but start a new path, I decided that I really wanted to allow the Black Lotus to be in the forefront, because I think for such a long time doing production and producing on pretty much all of my singles, maybe except for two, I didn't really allow people to understand that it was really a massive part of me that I felt I was kind of hindering. So that's why I did the name change. And I feel like also with Andreena Mill, there is a lot of history tied to my name, but I didn't want it to define who I was and who I am now, because I'm not the same person that I was when I started in this industry at 11 years old, and now that I'm older and I've changed and I'm like, a mother and a wife, and just, there's so many things about me that is different. I needed to say, hey, this is a part of me you haven't seen yet, and I need to showcase that before I bow out at any point in time, So, yeah.
Makes sense. You spoke about being a mother, a wife, a daughter, and stuff like that. I know your daughter right now is entering the music business.
Sort of.
But I know you guys have a song, or is it a snippet? I seen a snippet on Instagram together where she's playing the guitar. Tell us about that there. What's going on there?
So my daughter Rain is an amazing guitar player. She's like, it's funny because when she was younger, I used to put on like really like old jazz music and old classical music to get her to fall asleep, and like old 60s soul. And now that's all she listens to. It's like she doesn't listen to like trap music really. She's very into like, she likes to listen to like French music from the 40s. She's very diverse in what she chooses to listen to. So she plays the ukulele and she plays the guitar. And my dad was the one who kind of got her into the guitar. She didn't want to play the piano. So we got her ukulele, and now, she's been learning and is self-teaching. And we just started just singing together. Like, it's kind of just always been a thing around our house, just her playing the ukulele, and I would sing like these stupid songs. Yeah. And then one day I was like, let's sit down and work on something. And she was like, okay. So she started playing this like guitar loop, and I was like, okay. And I started chopping it up. And then I was like, what do you think we should write about? And she's like, you know what? And she's very into like reptiles and things like that. She was like, write a song about Parasite. I'm going to go play outside. And I was like, okay. And she went outside. I wrote this song in like 30 minutes, and she came back and was like, what? And we finished the song. Jonathan Watts is on the production on this one, and this will be on the album The Seed. So I'm really excited about that. She's working on this project with me. It's just, I mean, it's been bound to happen. She was on the cover of my first mixtape, so she's going to be on the cover of his album. Yeah. And we're working a lot together. She definitely wants to play guitar. I don't know how she feels about this industry, but as a musician and loving music, I think this is her outlet at the moment, where she can just, find things about herself that she's never really seen before, and realize that she can actually really play. So it was interesting to show her the video of us playing together, and people, their responses to it. She was like shocked, genuinely shocked. And I'm like, come on, girl. Isn't that new?
Does this. We've been doing this.
Yes, like, hello. So, but I get it. I definitely, kids that, at that age, she's 13, and like, just to see, just a difference in her playing now opposed to prior to that video, it's good.
And what's so crazy is basically she's getting interested in the music at the same age that you were, but now you've been in it. So then now if she wanted to go 100%, you could guide her in the business, because the business from jump.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think she's also very interested in like the artists that I'm working with as well, who are, like younger artists that I've been mentoring and things like that, who are around her age. And it's good because they can grow and learn together. And I think it's really important, especially for young ladies when they're coming up in the industry, to have positive influences around them in the studio, and, just understanding this industry and, their creativity and what they're worth, so it's good.
Definitely. And that brings us right up to your brand new release that we've heard all over 97, Hot 97, all over the radio, all over Spotify, everywhere. This one is called Number One. Let me give you my take on it here. Okay. It has a real soca, Afrobeats, R&B type of feel altogether. If you put it in one, that's what it is. And then you're just floating inside of
Yeah.
the beat right there. You know what I mean? That's
Yeah.
my take on there. And you
Yeah.
collaborated with somebody that you worked with many times in the past, which was Bassline from the Enforcers.
Bassline, yes, Bassline. And the Enforcers, they've been so supportive since day one of like from Andreena Mill to the Black Lotus. So when Bassline hit me up about doing this record, I was just like, let's do this. Like, and for me, it was funny because when he first sent me the song, I wrote it like real quick. And then I kind of sat on it like, I don't know. Because the funny thing is for me, growing up, soca music was always the one that I felt was not challenging, but like music that I loved, but never really dabbled in. I've dabbled in reggae, rock, everything else. But it was always the one that I always felt like I didn't or I couldn't touch. Oddly enough. And when he sent this to me, I was like, no, I want to try something. And then when we finally did it and he sent it back and everything was done, I was like, okay, why did it take me so long? Why did it take me so long to do this? So, shout out Bassline and the Enforcers. I'm excited about this one.
All right. And what's the feedback you've been getting back about the song right now?
It's been good. I feel like you said, the fact that it is like a, kind of a mixture of a few different vibes. And I feel like that's important, especially now because music is changing all the time and we're always infusing different genres together. And for me, for the first time to kind of dabble in that lane, it's a good response. It's better than what I expected. So, I'm excited about it. I'm glad that, it's in time for Hot Girl Summer. and definitely just, hoping people continue to listen to it and share. And hopefully a visual soon. And yeah.
When will we see you back in Toronto?
Hopefully very soon, because my family's there, and I've been back and forth. But this haul, I guess, obviously because of the pandemic and COVID-19, it's been longer, and it's been more difficult when it comes to all the travel restrictions. But when I'm back, I'm going to be back for a minute. I definitely want to, hang out and see people I haven't seen in a while. I miss home.
Crazy. Listen. Right now, we're at the end of the podcast right now. Is there any big up shout outs? Anybody you want to say right now? Leave your handles right now where they could check you out. The floor is yours right now.
You can check me out at TheBlk Lt, the Black Lotus on Instagram, Facebook, and then I'm still Andreena Music on Twitter. And SoundCloud's the same. It's big up Bassline and the Enforcers for definitely, getting this together and, this #1 record together. And I'm really excited about that one as well. I hope you guys continue to stream it and play it. Anybody who's watching, listening, check us out.
When could we expect a full body of work coming out from you?
So the full body of work is Honey, and that comes out in a few weeks. And it's the Black Lotus meets the Killer Bees, and it's my ode to the Wu-Tang Clan. So that's the next project that I'm working on. So the first single comes out on September the 8th on a Wu Wednesday, and I'm excited about this one. And then follow up is The Seed. So yeah.
I can't wait to hear that because I know how creative you are, and I hope a lot of people really could respect your creativity and how far left to how far right you can go, and then just come right in the center.
I'm excited about this one. I definitely wanted to tap into, a group that I grew up really listening to, and kind of started my whole rap career in my mind. So yes, shout out to Wu-Tang.
Yeah. Listen, this was a great conversation. Your vibe, your energy, your memories, and how you just tell the stories is so amazing also.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me and taking some time for me to reflect. Because sometimes these things I forget. Like it's been, it's been a journey. It's been some time. So,
Yeah, thank you so much. And let me give you an outro and get you out of here. All right? Well, ladies and gentlemen, this is Muscle, and this has been another Two Line Music Cuts Entertainment Report podcast, and we are out.
This podcast is brought to you by www.twolinemusichut.com.